ni abusia foya mama remfree Akosua Serwa da na wabre abusia we ene nsema eye Charles Kojofosu Daddy Lumba chiroye ewo nunwum na kama ye say Lumba was a prophet. If you say more kind ni nyina no after ni wechi no say mi wechi mama mi wechi enye basa mama mi wechi ye basa me kra bedi areho no enna me no ka say Lumba yie no nyame amfa fia ebe basa se ne oka wo ne nwum no pepepepe efri se ne ntia be kan nsa ebe anrampo na enso no na ye pese ye de yaso etofom na ye tietiem ehu ne se ye no kre from the right source and sana Jinyami TV ya babonten aba abeka bi court krata bi abeto abonten a efri ye maame kunani Akosua Serwa Lumba ho aba na ne lawyer kusi ana abusia ode krate aba abeto abonten na krata mu nsem nyina ne bone tofa epese kire ne se abusia no kama ye se abusia panyini Akosua Odo Broni ana funeral home for no epese omuyi ye maame Akosua Serwa esi nchen if you say ye no ntoto ye nyina da ni date omo hye ni mpo no ye maame ni ne mma omunim ho enam santi ye maame Akosua Serwa de asem na kodan court se o sre court se court nhye abusia panyini omo 8 days se omo meyi omo ho ano se dienti ana omo hye data ye de ebesie ni kunu na ono ye legal wife ya mona mane owo ma na abusuya mutumi ekotena baabi ekohye date ekobopo na bra oyire amramu amranim ne se wono no ye the legal wife no onim ho hwe e de sadia ene omoma kirem ewo kod ebiam so no Lumba yire eye ba kope ono ne eye maame Akosua Serwa enti court stop it abusuan no se omobema eye Odo Broni ababedi kuna if you say German mramu no ye ware ba kope which is the ordinance marriage na ni Ghana ye mra ni nyina ye pe na o kan so amayati ase se Lumba owi onye Ghana ni o onye Ghana for modehye Lumba naturalize ama German aban aye na me no ka say German aban betumi abase Lumba ye medehye enti mebaji amu no e de akogama akosie made enti ye tia ye kunkodwofoso ho muti social media esu a chese mo to ensem money left right center no enna me no ka say no asem no e wo court na eye lawyer kusi awo ye maame Akosua Serwa lawyer aba bonten e de nsem bi aba abetudwa na mesro so yenko ne yenkotie na yekotie wi a mara no ne mara ne ka no eye mrani ni bi aba abechirem pepe ama otumi hu ne se na tede a na ne Odo Broni ahwa asem ebe fa wase yenkotie
so ubetimi adi atumu ama se a confirm se as ugina hono ma Akosua Serwa fosu asemrenim ni
nukrapa.
Okay. Yehun samankrata bi yakin kan bi batemre mu asem ne todo bi ana ya yenye mrenim fo no ni etie fo na ye asum kesene ne so sande sitie no na chese Akosua Serwa fosu wo sama eye ebusuapeni Victor Owusu eye Priscilla Ofori aka Odo Broni na transition zone sanete
Nukre pepe
dia ni na asempa nti Akosua Serwa se wo saman sa eye empenfo mienu ni adwumakuo transition
amde na wati dan nsembisi ama abusuapeni lawyer ase lente bra Akosua Serwa na lete ni muno lawyer ni se abusuapeni aka kire ni se koja wadie to ni onye Lumba Daddy Lumba yiri biom based on that, and Yanso, you two put all, so Obia, you know, being a year. It depends on our requirement for the worry. Ghana, you will run me and some major run about our dear home by. Baku a customary marriage, Baku a ordinance marriage, and Baku Muhammadan marriage. Now, Akosua Serwa in the class of balance and now what you know, a ordinance marriage under the German law. The batch of TNE.
Did you?
Under the ordinance law, no, Bremen to be worrying you. Or under the ordinance law, you three find something moves our dear. It's the court I order. And you show me the certificate now. I was also or the better. Yapan court in Google. And the Odo Broni, as far as we are concerned, a mistress. Lumba, we don't know anything. A little woman. We respect all that. But don't mean negative. I will Ghana rem. And only a person who should penny near Odo Broni, yes, Ghana position it here. There, yes, any move on. Because one said, Mamma, I'm running the boy home, bra. And to say one name, Lumba, one on anything, then can't send no so do our affection for Lumba. You play a role in the funeral, but to suggest to say on a year, na Akosua Serwa year. Now, if I choose Sabaka, and I'm referring to the letter. Now, I chose Sabaka so come in Amayeno. The man is not being straightforward. And the MSA court, I claim, not what he orders. And sign a unit, the doer, and go far where you be a man. Now, I know, it's a year letter, a year wait, no, I will back up any ETC. The court unique letter, Akosua Serwa one area. Nothing. Only training Odo Broni from conducting herself as a spouse because she can't be. She's a mistress. That is acceptable. And I believe, sir, any lawyer who gets the opportunity to look at the facts of the case would agree. If I file injunction, in the injunction application, we have annexed a copy of the certificate. And the lawyer be here where the source. Actually, application now. If you a man's on the edge, they will concede, they will proceed nominal in come on.
Abusia way and in some lawyer could see Eddie Ababe to John de Omon Pen Tintin Bia. Abusiano should respect the first wife. Abusiano who say Lumba wa yere nane any Akosua Serwa and she shape your muye biano funeral committee no mo make sure say more involving Obano send ye beya on also bet me abobo ne ho na wotumi abekura ne kunu fefe na busia Paul Ademochiri show so the good evening Ghana na lawyer bi so e na wo ba be kire mra nim send ye mra ne tie wa kire mama ye hu se ye tie abontin a ye keka se be ma de obetimi aware ne odudu bi apɛ no hey se anya no kuro se wonnim na wokɔ court kɔware na wokɔ san a huni se no ano no wontumi kura enko ye efie de se yi makoye traditional marriage ubetimi akoye nanso no asɛm ba emra no anani ubedi wo oba akro no yenimu wonya yire abusia yenko na yenkutie lawyer.
The forum you marry which allows for monogamous marriage is equally recognized around the world as monogamous marriage. So when we say monogamous, we simply mean that when you marry one person, you cannot marry another person. You cannot marry.
So this is the law under which this marriage was celebrated.
Yes.
In Germany.
In Germany.
And it was never dissolved.
No, it was
until
not.
his passing.
That is so.
So technically, he's married to her.
That is so.
But they were not living together.
That is so.
They were separated.
Yes. So she was in Germany. In fact, it was after he passed that she came down to during the 1 week. In fact, many people saw her for the first time during the 1 week
but
ceremony.
no, people know Lumba know her.
Yes, but
what's
I'm
her
saying,
name again?
Sewa Fosu.
Yes, Sewa Fosu. Yeah.
That, I mean, the first time people saw her, you know, she was on social media.
Is her Fosu from the Charles Kojo Fosu? For Mrs. Fosu.
Yes, Fosuh.
Okay.
That's it. So
and this
she's
is
taking
Odo Broni, who is the wife that she was living with at East Legon.
Yes.
And so did Lumba have children with this woman?
Yes, 3.
And with this woman?
Yes.
3 as
In
well?
fact, no, there's I think more than 3. In fact, when many people came to his residence at East Legon, her children were also seen at the venue. So he has children with both women.
Okay, but this is the woman she was staying with.
Yes.
Were they married?
That's the thing. I really want to be careful in picking my words because...
Okay, what does the rate say? So this is the one who has filed
Yes.
an application to the court, an
Yes.
injunction to stop the funeral.
from going on, and then because she claims that she has her marriage or her marriage puts her in the position as the wife, the legal wife of Daddy Lumba, and that any attempt to sidestep her in planning the funeral is an affront to the right she has as a wife and the responsibility she has to perform certain widowhood rites as the funeral of her husband. So under Akan customary law, the wife has a role to play at the funeral, and not only the wife, but the wife's family has a role to play. So you remember when Flies Jerry John Rawlings passed, his funeral at the State House, the wife's family from Menchia, that's Cornelia Ajima Rawlings, the family from Menchia also came. They came to present gifts. What's the fancy to say, igurazi, items that you used to bath the
body.
Exactly, and so those are the customary rites that the wife is supposed to perform. So it says in the writ filed at the High Court in Kumasi, Akosua Serwa Fosu is seeking several declarations, including recognition as the only surviving spouse of the late musician and a sole individual performed or entitled to perform the widowhood rites. So these are the things she's asking for. 1, declare her as the only surviving spouse of the late Daddy Lumba. Declare that she alone has the legal right to perform his widowhood rites, and then restrain the head of Lumba's family, that is Kofi Owusu Fosu, from recognizing or dealing with the second defendants, that's Odo Broni, Preslo Foriata. I don't know if it is the Achim Foriata.
It spells the same, so I'm sure it's
yes, a spouse of the deceased, and then restrain Odo Broni from publicly presenting herself as the surviving wife of the late musician. Now, she here is claiming that Daddy Lumba and her are married under German law, the civil marriage registry in Bornheim in Germany. And so by virtue of that, they lived in Germany and they have 3 children. And so by virtue of that, she is claiming that she is the wife entitled to perform.
Children: Calvin Kojo Fosu 31, Charlene Fosu 24, and Sierra Fosu 20.
Yes.
Wow.
So what does the law say concerning these things? In Ghana, once an individual marries under any monogamous administration, when we say monogamous, it means that once you are married to one person, you cannot marry another. So in Ghana, we have 3 main systems that is recognized for marriage. You have marriage under the ordinance. You have marriage under Islamic law. They say Mohammedan, but I think it's more appropriate to say Islamic. Yes, yeah. It's quite offensive when you use Mohammedan. And then under customary law, the 3rd. Now, under Islamic law, you are entitled to maximum of 4 wives if you are able to show you are able to take care of them as a man. Under customary law, you are entitled to marry endless number, so long as you're able to take care of them. But under
customary law, is there that caveat to take care of them? Who judges it? Under Islamic law, it's quite a strict process. There's a means test that you can go through. I'm not sure whether customary law has that means test.
Generally, we would say that if you're able to take care of them.
Those days, they used to say that when the cocoa season comes, then you can take another wife.
Most often, it was cocoa farmers, rich farmers, and the intent was to have children who would be able to take care of the farm. But you are there, you don't have any farm, you don't have any property to take over, you're going to take multiple wives. There will be a burden on you.
Well, but that's the individual's choice. So I'm just saying that we have to distinguish between customary laws, no strict adherence to prove that you can't take care of more than one woman,
and then Islamic law,
the Islamic one, which has a very clear way to establish it. But fair enough. Okay, let's move on.
And so, if you marry under the ordinance, and note that it's not just the ordinance per se, that's the ordinance in Ghana, but under a similar legal regime in another country, And you cannot marry under any other system. Under Ghanaian law, once you marry under the ordinance, you cannot marry under any other system. So if Kwame takes Ama and they either go to the marriage registry, they either go to the registrar general, or they marry in a church and knows that it's also specific, because there are some churches that have the authority to issue the certificates. So for instance, Methodist, Presby, Catholic, and then some of the recognized churches that have the authority to issue certificates. Okay. Once you marry there, you cannot marry anywhere else.
Once you conduct an ordinance marriage.
Or an ordinance marriage, you cannot marry even under custom.
Yes, you can't marry under custom.
You cannot marry. Yeah. It's bars you. So it is ordinance in Ghana and ordinance in the equivalent in UK, in Germany, in anywhere. So also under German civil law, once you contract a marriage under ordinance under German civil law, you can equally not marry under any system again.
It's strictly monogamous.
It's strictly monogamous. A similar thing.
And this is the marriage that she's alleging was conducted in
Germany, and no order for dissolution, no divorce.
Since then, there's been no order.
There has been no order.
Does she explain the separation of she and her partner in the writs anyhow?
Well, the thing is, the ambit of divorce is strict. Separation doesn't come in. Divorce is a legal technical term. Was the order given by the courts?
So you mean divorce is not gleaned by behavior?
No,
it should be found out from the fact.
Yes,
presented before a court which grants the application.
Yes,
until and unless such an application is granted under the law, the parties are deemed married.
Yes. Okay. Either that, or if it's under custom, you have to perform the specific rites that are recognized under custom. So for example, for the accounts, you have to come back to the woman's family and the woman would give you the drink. Often when they give you the schnapp, they can give you maybe 3-4 bottles of schnapp. The family is supposed to keep one. They can drink 2 or 3, but they must keep 1 bottle
as an evidence.
Yes, as evidence of marriage, and that bottle will also be retained in occasion of divorce.
Okay, so if you marry under ordinance in Germany,
yes,
and you come to Kumasi, can you divorce that marriage? Can you dissolve that marriage by a traditional process?
No.
If you undertake a traditional process, it will be null and void?
It will be null and void. Traditional process can only be applied to traditional marriage. That is the return of the drinks. So for instance, under Islam, they have certain specific rites they perform where the man can see talak, talak, talak. After obviously they've seen the imam and there has been investigation as to whether the divorce has broken down, and then after that they are supposed to have that divorce also registered at the local district. So those are the ambits for which, and this has not been done in this instance. And so once you do that, you commit a misdemeanor.
Once you marry whilst you are in another marriage legally.
Yes.
Which is what she's alleging that Daddy Lumba did.
Yes.
With Odo Broni.
Odo Broni. That is, if she's able to substantiate or show that indeed they married under another system, and that she's able to show that still, per the marriage certificate issued in Bornheim, Germany, there has been no dissolution of the marriage thereafter, then it's bigamy. And then, I mean, obviously the man is no more, so he cannot be charged of bigamy. But this is just for legal education.
But it will mean that the rights of Odo Broni will be affected.
Yes, will be extinguished.
So if, for instance, if Lumba has died intestate, and therefore the estate is subject to the interstate succession law.
Yes.
And the interstate succession law says that 1/3 to wife, 1/3 to family, isn't it? And 1/3 to children. Then the 1/3 to the wife would have to go to
the legally recognized wife.
However, Odo Broni.
However, Odo Broni's children, so long as they were children of Daddy Lumba, would be entitled.
Even if they're over 18?
If they are above 18, they may not be entitled as dependents.
Okay.
So above 18, the law is that there's actually Humphrey Bonsu versus Quaino that specifically mentioned this principle, that above 18, they will not be deemed to be dependents of the deceased, and then consequently entitled as of rights from his estates. But as children, generally, they may be.
But if he died with a will, and in the will he gives Odo Broni, that she says that's my house in East Legon, to my wife Odo Broni, how will the law evaluate that?
Then to my wife, who is the wife?
If he writes to my wife Odo Broni, and now she's saying that Odo Broni cannot be described as a wife, So will they simply delete my wife and leave Odo Broni to have the property?
So that is,
or what is going to happen?
So that is when they would have to engage the courts in an interpretative exercise. So we call that proving a will in solemn form. So proving a will in solemn form means that you are now we have proven the will in common form and proving the will in solemn form. In this instance, you are challenging some provision in the will. At times it can be maybe the signature did not look appropriate. At times it can be the description the person gave to one of the children. You know that maybe Mr. A was fighting with his child, but now in his will he is describing that child as my dearest boy. Those things can be challenged, but that would have to be.
But when it's challenged, does it nullify the entire?
It is the court that makes
document,
it's
or
the court
it takes that out and keeps the rest.
Oh yes, so long as it's the specific provisions that you challenge in court. So if you are challenging provision A, that this goes to, or this is supposed to come to me, that is what we are dealing with. The court may not say that the will in and of itself, unless maybe you are challenging a part of the will that targets the essential validity of the full will.
During the trial, if during the trial the family has been sued, isn't it?
The head of family. That's another part.
Is a defendant. Is there something about it in law?
Yes,
is that
but
not
that's
the right
another part argument. So that's another.
Is that not the right person to sue?
No, that's the right person to sue. But there's also a legal discussion about who has the rights to plan the burial of an individual. So the law, and this will actually come as a shocker to many people. So assuming this person is called Samuel, and Samuel writes a will that he wishes to be cremated, or he wishes for his body to be given to Kolebu for scientific purposes. When he dies, nobody is under a legal obligation to give his body to Kolebu or to cremate him. The rights that accrues to the rights concerning the planning of the funeral accrues to the family of Samuel. And so once you die, the property is not vested. Your body is not yours.
It's for the family.
It's more or less.
So they decide whether they will honor what you want to do.
Exactly.
So they are going to have their funeral.
They are going to.
They need not consult her. They need not consult her.
Yes, but the thing
must they invite her?
But good. So under Akan customary law, which was what I said earlier, there are specific functions the widow must play at the funeral. So they cannot, as family, also oust the widow from performing those functions at the funeral.
If they do not recognize her as the widow, because they say over the last 20 years we haven't seen her, our son, our brother, our uncle had a very bad toxic relationship with her, we don't want to see her, she's the reason why our uncle died. Odo Broni has come into his life and made him better. Without Odo Broni he would have died 10 years earlier. If they say these things, is it inconsequential to the law?
She's the widow.
Well, so that's if she succeeds.
That's if she succeeds. She's the widow. And so the relationship, whether or not the relationship was good. So 2 years ago, in March 2023, I attended the funeral in Kumasi, close to Kwamo, Pakoso. I don't know if you know that place.
Yeah, it's my village.
I attended the funeral there. A similar thing. The man was in UK, married the woman, ordinance and everything. As time went on, the marriage was problematic. He got a second wife. Now at the funeral,
second wife in London,
Ghana.
Okay.
So she was here. The plan was he had passed 60, and so he wanted to come to Ghana and then marry the second one, more or less, after finalizing a divorce. That was his intention. But when he came, the issue was that she was the wife. The first woman, the UK woman was the wife. And so the consensus of the family was to allow both of them perform. So she came, she did her procession. The first wife came, did the procession with the things that they used to wash the corpse. And then the second wife also came and also did her procession with the things they used to wash the corpse. Interestingly, it almost became at the grounds of the funeral.
Is it not really in law a conflict of laws question?
Yes.
Where German law is clashing with Ghanaian law, and therefore, because if the family knows Odo Broni, then it suggests that there has been some processes between Daddy Lumba's family and Odo Broni's family for Lumba's family to now recognize her, and then he as an individual has also contracted a marriage in another jurisdiction. It's a clear case of conflict of laws, isn't it?
Yes, but the thing is, once marriage is contracted somewhere, it is deemed recognized throughout the world.
Globally.
So marriage contracted in Ghana. So in fact, you can have an American citizen come to Ghana to contract marriage in Ghana, to get married to somebody. They would go to church in Ghana and sign. Once he goes to the US, though the marriage was contracted in Ghana, it is also applicable in the US.
So US will recognize that.
US will recognize that. And in fact, the lady can even use the marriage as a basis. Many people do it. The lady
travel.
Yes, to travel.
Yeah,
and
that is his wife.
That is the wife. And the American government, it happened here.
Yeah, but if the marriage is celebrated by the American citizen in Ghana as a traditional marriage, not as an ordinance marriage, it's a traditional Ghanaian traditional marriage, which is polygamous.
Yes,
potentially polygamous. If that American goes to America, his matrimonial law, the only matrimonial law that exists in America is monogamy. The polygamy is unknown to American jurisprudence in that regard. If you have gone to conduct a polygamous marriage, would America recognize your marriage as polygamous, and therefore that you can potentially marry more within the context of the same traditional marriage?
You can only marry more within the context of the traditional marriage.
Yes, absolutely.
That's the
Will America recognize that?
Yes.
Okay, so if in that regard you have married another woman, so you marry a Ghanaian traditionally, then you marry a South African traditionally, then you marry an Angolan traditionally, because all of these cultures allow the traditional polygamy thing, and then you file for their documents and you have 3 wives. Will the American State Department recognize that an American citizen has contracted a marriage that allows him to marry 3 wives when that is contrary to U.S. matrimonial causes?
With an American citizen. Now,
yes, the man is an American citizen.
The man is an American citizen.
Yeah, he's married 3 African women at different times, and a system that allows him to marry polygamy. He's in America. He wants them to have American citizenship as well, as spouses of American citizens are entitled. So he presents 3 spouses to the State Department as give them all Americans, because they are all my wives. But American law does not recognize that. In fact, it deems that as immoral.
Yes. So as an American citizen, now the dynamics have changed.
Yeah.
Because it's different if it was a Ghanaian citizen who is subject to Ghanaian law that respects and recognizes custom.
Okay,
as an American citizen, he is bound by American law, which does not recognize such potentially polygamous marriage.
So then an American citizen cannot reasonably contract a monogamous marriage in Ghana. He cannot. Because,
an American citizen?
Yes, an American citizen cannot conduct a monogamous, a polygamous marriage in Ghana. He can't.
He can contract a potentially polygamous marriage and possibly convert that potentially polygamous marriage
to an
ordinance marriage.
But I'm saying
even
that
in the US,
if he conducts the polygamous marriage in Ghana, he's not allowed to take on another.
No, he's not allowed to take on another.
Because his personal law does not allow it.
Yes, his personal law, which is American law. As an American citizen.
Treat me like one of your students. Let's come to Daddy Lumba. Daddy Lumba is Ghanaian. The law that governs his life is Ghanaian. He finds himself in Germany. He's going to marry. He goes through a German process.
Yes.
He does not know that this process is contrary to the Ghanaian marriage process. He understands that he's getting married to somebody, as he would have gotten married to him in Bushe in Kumasi or Kwadasu in Kumasi or something like that. So he contracts the marriage. After a while, he's not quite interested in the marriage. He tells the family that I'm not interested. He comes to Ghana and marries Odo Broni. As far as he is concerned, within the context of his personal law, has he committed an offense?
Yes.
Why?
Because the existence of ordinance is a matter of law. Now, despite the existence of his personal law, he has decided to subject himself to a legal system that says that you are only entitled to marry one woman under that system. Once you have subjected yourself, and that's why there are many Ghanaians that go abroad, subject themselves to that system, and are barred from taking another person as a wife. Now,
let me bring the question back to America again. Treat me as one of your students. An American senator, his son goes to Harvard, meets an Iranian woman who also comes to Harvard. The Iranian woman is strictly governed by Islamic law. He gets married to the Iranian woman in Tehran under Islamic law, which allows him to marry 4 or 5 women. Does the American jurisprudence recognize that this American citizen has contracted a marriage that is opposite to the American marriage system? If it doesn't, after he's married this Iranian woman, he marries another Iraqi woman, and then he marries another woman from Jordan. 3 wives, and that's Islamic law. He's able to do that. Now he says, issue them with American passports.
But what is his personal law as an American citizen?
But that's what I'm saying. Lumba's personal law is Ghanaian, it's Ashanti.
But he subjected himself.
So the American guy subjected himself to Islamic law.
But who is the administrator? You see, in this instance, there is fixed statutes.
What does that mean?
The statute is I can't find a law.
I know what statutes mean. What parliament will pass.
What parliament will pass. And parliament is fixed. Parliament has said this is the law that applies to persons who marry with this procedure. So if you want to marry multiple persons, he should have contracted customary marriage. He should have come here in Ghana, gone to Kwamu, and gone to marry multiple persons. But because he intended for it to be monogamous, that is why he took her and married her according to monogamous law.
He was unaware that he was doing a monogamous law because this lady is Ghanaian.
Oh, they would have told.
And so, because this lady is Ghanaian and he's Ghanaian, and they find themselves in Germany and they want to get married. And in Germany, if you have to get married, after you do the adwa and the but you still have to go and sign something. As far as he's concerned, that's what he was doing. Because his personal law is Akan customary law.
But you have subjected yourself knowingly, and you must know. You must know the ramifications of the forms of marriage you intend. In fact, at that sitting, when you are signing, the officer would inform you that this is what you are getting yourself into.
That is 30 years ago.
So how he forgot?
Did the officer inform? Do you know?
Oh, but that is what's supposed to be done. The officer issuing the certificate will tell you.
The US State Department should issue all the 3 women with American passports. If the young American man has married one Iranian under Islamic law, after that married a Jordanian under Islamic law, and married an Iraqi under Islamic law.
Iran recognizes, Iraq recognizes, Jordan recognizes, America doesn't recognize.
Why won't America recognize?
Because that is America's law.
So Lumba is Ghanaian.
But that is German. That is German law. So once you have subjected yourself to, when you go to Rome, you do what?
But the American subjected himself to Islamic law to marry the Iranian guy.
So if you've subjected yourself to Islamic law, you subject. But don't come and force the American states to adhere to the terms of your choice.
So the American states will ask him, choose the wife you want us to issue the passport.
Yes.
Because we are going to issue to only one wife.
And even that one, once you choose, make sure you come and perform American marriage. One that is recognized. So that is why I said that monogamous marriage.
As it is, the American State Department will not recognize that polygamous marriage that you have gone to do.
Yes, so it may be recognized for other purposes. But for the purpose of papers, issuing of papers and all those things, it is only one wife that has been contracted under a monogamous system. That is why when you come to Ghana and you go to Christ the King and you marry at Christ the King, you can still use that to apply for papers in the US. That is why when you go and marry at AMA, you can still use that to apply for papers in the US. But if you go and marry...
Because it fits with you.
I beg you, Krumao. I beg you, brutal. Now, I was here. Message or subscribe to channel. No. Now, I click the notification button. Send a baby, I may drop a video be and also submit to me. I can be now. Make sure, boss. Say, I same way. You crumb say, you crumb say your own blue nama. You crumb say ya. Baby, I send me the piano. They didn't update Baby Bremo. Madam.